What is up, all ye faithful Raptor fans? What's going on? I'm your host, Aiden Moss, joined by my fellow colleague, Oren Weisfeld. What up, Oren? We just saw the
What up?
Toronto Raptors lose a game that they absolutely should have won. 130 Milwaukee Bucks, 122 Toronto Raptors. Second game of a back-to-back. Second game where they played a rotation as though it was a playoff game with, I think they went 7.5 guys deep, let's say, second game in a row. Brady continued to be on fire. OG continued to be ice cold. Pascal and Scotty kind of in the middle. Frustrating loss all around, though. No Giannis Antetokounmpo, no Chris Middleton. Oren, thoughts?
Thoughts. I feel like I cut out there. By the way, I didn't hear what you said about the rotations after
Oh,
that
I
part.
just said it's basically like they're running a playoff rotation.
All right. Yeah, honestly, in a lot of ways, the Raptors were the better team. But at the same time, sometimes like it's as simple as 3-point shooting, and the Bucks were really hot from three. Okay, it took 40 attempts, which is actually like right up at their average. You would think they would take a lot of threes with Giannis out and missing key guys, just kind of hope to play the numbers game. And they kind of did that tonight and made six more threes than the Raptors, and that was a big part of the story. The run they went on in the third quarter was like exclusively threes. It was like Ingles hit a couple, Brooke Lopez hit a couple, Allen hit that one in transition, and then they all of a sudden had like a 10-point lead that they never really let go. So 3-point shooting was a huge one in this one. The Raptors outplayed them in a lot of ways. But at the same time, I'm tired of coming on here and being like, well, if the Raptors shot better from three, they would win. Like, that's kind of the issue with the team.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
didn't need to shoot better from three, though. Like they shot 37%, which is fine. It was better than fine for the Raptors. I think like the Milwaukee was exceptionally hot, but it's almost as though every team seems to be exceptionally hot, and a lot of these threes came as a result of poor communication on rotations, lack of aggression on closeouts, lack of aggression on the pick and rolls. Like, Drew was getting wherever he wanted to and then kicking out. Ingles was getting wherever he wanted to and then kicking out. So it's like a lot of those threes were just going in, but a lot of them were a consequence of poor defense or lack of like coherent defense. So I agree with you. Like the first quarter they go guns blazing and they dominate the quarter. Then we go and we're suddenly leading, and then we go quiet in the third. So it was a difference of 3-point makes, but it was our defense that let us down, I think. And also, and we can get to this, but also our offense in the fourth quarter that ultimately let us down and didn't for Milwaukee. Do you want to talk about our offense, defense?
Yeah,
Where do you go?
I kind of want to start at the end of the game
Okay.
when, honestly, we can even go to the play-by-play here. Just some of the decisions that the Raptors made down the stretch weren't good enough. I mean, you look at the play-by-play, the Raptors, Fred hit a three-pointer at 3:19 left. At this point, they're down 121, 119. Raptors don't make another field goal or free throw until the game's over. That's a Scotty Barnes free throw with 20 seconds left, and the game's already iced. So yeah, the Raptors basically go the final 3 minutes and 20 seconds without scoring. And that's the game. Like, Fred made some pretty bad decisions going to the rim, getting blocked twice. And that's really what other guys just missed open shots. OG had a post up that he airballed essentially.
Yeah.
And then there was also a lot of instances of just like the Raptors would like run an action even out of timeout. Bucks would blow up the action, and then they still have like 15 seconds on the shot clock, but like nothing to do. Like there was that one where Scotty and Fred stood behind each other, like they didn't know where they were going. Fred ran behind Scotty. It ended in I think it ended in the OG shot, but like they just after they run out of their first option, their scramble is terrible. And when we look at the box score, I think we're getting too far away from Siakam here. Like, I understand, this was the point I wanted to bring the pod, is like, I understand the democratic offense and everything. And on a night where Fred and Gary have it, sure. But also, you just can't let a game end where Siakam has the fewest shots out of your starters.
You know what? You know how many shots Pascal had in the fourth quarter?
I don't.
Two. Two shots in the entire quarter. Like, it's just
He
absolutely.
got to the free throw line a bunch, and that was the thing. They couldn't stop him.
But it's just like, it's unacceptable. Like, I get that, kickouts and stuff, but and the OG post up is a good example. Like, Scotty basically wrenched the ball away from Freddie, who was like calling for the ball back, and waits for OG to get settled and gives him the ball. Like, this is the difference. Like, yeah, Freddie had a great scoring game, but like, there is so many times where if that shot doesn't go in, I'm super pissed at the play. And then there's other times where he's pounding the ball. Like, it was the fourth time that he had the ball in the fourth quarter, and that was the one where the shot clock winded down and he just like threw it up in the air. Like, it's very one-dimensional with what he creates for this team, and it's awesome what he does, but it has to be selective. Like, when he's on fire like he was earlier in the game, go for it. And he did have 3 buckets back to back to back, I think, in the fourth quarter. But defenses are going to settle in and they're going to be ready for him, and he still just continues to do the same thing. And conversely with Pascal, he had so many potential assists tonight where he would drive and kick and there would be a missed open 3. He creates so much when he knifes into that paint. And same with Scotty, who didn't get a fair chance. Like, Scotty is always looking and can see over defenses for the open guy. And like you're saying, when the actions die or end of game, when everybody's buttholes get tight, and like, we need guys who can be multidimensional in those moments. And I don't know, just watching Freddie pound the ball was very frustrating. Pascal's a superstar. He's got to be closing those games. We got to live and die with Pascal. Whereas I'm watching over and over, I'm watching him just kind of stand there on the side being like, yo, I'm kind of open.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a weird little stretch for him. Where like I think people would say in response that he's not playing his best basketball, and he hasn't over the past couple weeks played
Pascal?
his best basketball. Yeah, but at the same time, it's just like when you're the superstar and you're just the most reliable player, the ball should be in your hands down the stretch. And we literally didn't see that at all today. And that's what we've talked about all season with like role definition, right? Like, we've hit on this where
Yeah.
I love Fred, and I think he's right to say that he has a different role this season than he's used to, and it has diminished from last season, but he doesn't seem to have accepted that, or he just doesn't seem to be able to play this role that they're asking of him, because there's too many games where this happens, basically, where he does make a few shots, he is playing well, and he goes into like a bit of a hero ball mode. And it's in his DNA, and I get it. It's a big part of what makes him great, is just the fact that he's willing to take any shot and that he has the confidence to drive to the rim. And even in this game, he had a lot of buckets at the rim, but he does need to take a back seat on this team, and he just hasn't really proven that he's either willing to or like can thrive in a smaller role.
Yeah. Like, I don't really want Freddie taking 28 shots in a game. It's just,
Yeah, 28, and then Pascal has 13. You can't do that. And like, they'll tell you, oh, that's what the defense was giving. They were showing Pascal help, whatever. Like, I'm sure that's what they'll tell you. But even regardless of that, I didn't even see the ball in Pascal's hands at the end of
but
the game. Make decisions to get guys in good spots. And like, there was one play that really frustrated me was the transition one where Fred got blocked in transition.
he looked off Pascal completely.
Yeah, it's a 3-on-2. It's like, get it into Pascal's hands as soon as possible. He's your best finisher and decision maker in transition. And then if he wants to pass it back, fine. But like, always put it in his hands first. And that was just a bad mistake there.
And a big part of this is that it's passing generally. Like it's not just Freddie, but like there's so many times in the New York game and then tonight where and it seems like uniquely so that there will be an action, there will be penetration, then there's a kick out, then there's another penetration, and then another kick out, and then something happens like somebody's open on a baseline cut, somebody's open on the weak side three, and it looks so easy. And you're just like, and it feels like a miracle that it's happened with this team, but it's just normal basketball. Whereas what we mostly see with this team, and less so, like it ebbs and flows now more than it has in the beginning of the season. But you go from that, whereas there's like flow, and a lot of it comes from turnovers and confidence, and like everybody's sharing the rock, and like things are going well. And then they almost get overconfident, or they panic when Milwaukee goes on a run, and somebody's like, "I got it," and then it just goes back into this one and done stuff, and it's really ugly to watch. And
Yeah.
everybody's guilty of it, but Freddie, I find, is particularly guilty of it.
Yeah. I want to shout out Phoenix Plays, the longtime listener, who says, Oren, this is nasty work. You feed the hot hand. I want him taking 28 shots if he's shooting 65% true shoot it. And he's talking about Fred tonight. And I get that. Obviously, the percentages are high. He had a great scoring night. And at the end of the game, you want to feed the hot hand. But I would just say you want to get Fred good shots.
Yes.
And some of those decisions he made were objectively bad. Like, you can't tell me that you want Fred looking off Pascal in transition and trying to lay it up
Getting blocked.
over Drew, when we've seen Fred in transition a million times and it doesn't really go well when he tries to finish. So I get what you're saying, and I'm not saying Fred shouldn't have gotten any looks down the stretch. I think the whole Raptors offense was just a mess, and it ended with Fred shooting a lot of bad bailout shots that just weren't acceptable. And everyone deserves some blame. The coaching staff deserves some blame. Everyone deserves some blame for not getting guys in good spots, but Fred is the point guard, so he also deserves some blame.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
but he's kind of demonstrating that he's not the point guard, right? Like that, we're making that pretty clear. And that's the thing, is that
true.
Freddie, another reason why Scottie and Pascal should be the focal points of this team is that, like, Freddie, just like we see from Gary, like Gary is a perfect example of a guy who is thriving off of being the third guy, right? Like being the kickouts on the weak side, being the guy who cuts off of Pascal or Scottie and getting the buckets quite easily. And then doing a little bit of ISO. And Freddie should be doing the same. Like he would be destroying teams if he were working more off of Scottie and Pascal, but he's not. And I maybe it's not fair to rag on Freddie when he just had 40 and like almost dragged this team to a win, but it's just getting really frustrating, particularly at the end of the game when it's not working and it's like sealing our fate.
Yeah. And G on YouTube says 10 missed free throws for the Raptors and OG shooting terribly. He was 2 of 13. Cost them the game, and we're talking about Fred. And that's true. Like, I wanted to bring up the end of the game just because it was interesting, and that's what everyone's focused on right now because that's how fandom works. But they did lose this game in the third quarter, to G's point. And yeah, it wasn't all Fred's point, just the end of the game he has to take some fault for the end of the game. But yeah, this loss definitely is not on his shoulders. He had 39 points. Like, I don't mean to come off too harshly on him. I guess it's just interesting to talk about his role and some things like that. But we should talk about what went wrong for the Raptors more generally, I guess, which is OG shooting 2 of 13, which is Pascal missing 5 free throws, which is the bench contributing 2 points outside of Precious Achiuwa. So only 8 guys played, and Juancho and Chris Boucher had 2 points together. So there are other problems, and like we hit on at the top, the Bucks hitting a bunch of threes, and the Raptors not being able to match up with them. So yeah, I don't know. Where do you wanna go from there?
Well, the bench is just totally confusing to me. Like going into the New York game, I thought we had a stat. So I write about like the Charlotte Portland games, and right before the second Charlotte game, I write about how suddenly we have this structure. We have Wancho and Koloko coming in early in the first quarter. Start of the second quarter, it's Gary and 4 bench guys, and they play pretty damn well. Precious is finally coming around. He's getting his legs. They're plus in both of those games against Portland's bench and Charlotte's bench. And fair enough, it's Portland and Charlotte. They have some of the worst benches in the league. But it finally looked like there was balance. Like the starters played reasonable minutes, blah, 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 blah. Then we go into the third Charlotte game, and rotations get bumped a little bit, mostly because the starters were on fire in the first quarter, so Nurse lets them run. Then we go into the Knicks game, and all of a sudden, that's all out the window. Koloko and Wancho don't come in at all. We're down to Boucher and Precious only, with a little bit of Flynn on the side, and then the starters play 40 plus minutes in a 5-period game, and then they come into tonight on a back-to-back where the guys have probably slept like 6 hours, blah 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 blah, and you have 2.5 bench guys again. Like, it makes no sense to me what's going on here. Especially against the Milwaukee team who's down 3 guys, 2 of their primary guys. Like that's just egregious to me on Nurse's part, and I have no idea what happened. It's not like we saw a really bad incident with the bench rotation and like, oh, I can't trust them again. It's like they were playing the best they've played all season.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up because I had the exact same thought after the Knicks. I wanted to bring up this point, but then the Raptors won, and so we already talked me and Keon yesterday about how the Raptors again end of game offense was terrible. Last night they just got away with it. So I didn't hit on this point, but I wanted to say the same thing, which is not exactly the same, but like they had figured out a rotation. A lot of guys were contributing well when they saw time, and we've even heard like Fred say that they like it when the rotations are stable. He doesn't like it when he doesn't know who's coming in at what time. He's admitted that about that it's a disagreement with Nick on that point. And then they all of a sudden change it. And like I kind of understand pulling a guy like Flynn after so many games of just not being able to score. So I kind of understand
I disagree with you.
Okay, but I just want to say real quick, like, but what I would do if he wanted to get Flynn out of the rotation because he wasn't playing well, and sometimes you just gotta change it up, is put someone else in Flynn's position, but keep the structure of what they're doing. So put Doughton in if you want another guy to play that spot. You know what I mean? Like put Banton into that spot, give him a chance. Put Wieskamp in. But don't completely shift the rotation so that we all of a sudden are back to square one here. When, like you said, it never got solved. Like that zone they were running against Charlotte and Atlanta, it never got solved ahead of the next game. So I wasn't sure why it got all of a sudden changed and Koloko was pulled from the lineup and all this stuff. So yeah, I don't like the rotation mix and matching, but that's been a problem for a while.
I think Flynn's played some of his better basketball games of late. Like I also wrote about this on Friday. Like his assist percentage has gone way up despite his usage dropping, and his assist to turnover ratio has gone way up too. Like you see him running these pick and rolls, and it's basically him and Gary are the only offense. Like there's nobody else, and his pocket passing out of pick and rolls and his control when he's getting into the lane and into traffic is so much better than what he was, which was like panicking into pull-ups or like kind of getting bumped and stumbling, whatever. Like he's been so much better, and I thought he actually earned more minutes. So I mean, that whatever, it doesn't really matter. We don't need to argue about Flynn, but I think it's more symptomatic of what's going on with Nurse and how he treats the bench, because in my opinion, Flynn's been playing better.
Yeah, he's been playing better in a lot of ways, everything other than the scoring. He just hasn't been making shots recently, but whatever. We don't need to argue about the exact Flynn point because I get what you're saying, but also he hasn't been impacting the game enough for me to be like he has to play or anything like that, especially when you have so many guys who you can try on this bench. Like Thad Young hasn't played in like 5 games or something. So it's just a general point about even Wancho had a comment the other day that was like, why do you think you guys are being playing better? And he said like everyone's involved. Like they were running 10, 11 deep for a while. And everyone was involved and everyone was contributing. And yeah, it's a weird decision to all of a sudden against a Milwaukee team that doesn't have Giannis or Middleton to go to this
On a
really tight
back-to-back
rotation.
on the road.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Weird decisions. Weird decisions. Lost a must-win game, and also, but this one I do want to say was on the starters. Like plus minus is not a perfect stat, but look at it. Like all the bench guys, like were positive. When the Bucks went on their big runs, it was the start of the game and it was the start of the third quarter,
yeah.
which is two. And we've seen this enough times too, where it's like the small starting lineup just doesn't work against certain teams, like a Brook Lopez, and it
Or
didn't work
even
tonight.
or even with Drew Holiday, who was just kind of like they had Scotty on him, who was too slow to begin with, and then I think they had Freddie and Gary go at him, and they were just too small. He was just working around them.
Exactly, and
Uh,
there was no help at the rim either because
yeah,
Brook's spacing you out to five, and
yeah,
there's no help at the rim, and guys are just letting Drew. I was frustrated with just letting Drew, just not knowing the scout really. Like let Drew shoot, don't let him get to the basket, especially early on, and they were just kind of up on him too much. He was pushing them, getting to the basket, and then once he's at the basket, it's kind of game over. He's really strong and crafty, so. Yeah, there was a little bit of just silly defense individually in this one.
yeah, yeah. Mike Comuna says the league has figured out our defensive schemes. I've heard this said a lot. Um, it do you agree with that? Like it teams seem to be shooting. I'd be interested at the opponent 3-point percentage against us this year. It seems to be high, and sometimes it's variation on the just luck, but it does seem that teams are finding the corners on us very often, and hitting a high percentage of them.
Yeah, the corners is definitely high, just like it was last year. That's the scheme has always kind of allowed for corner threes.
Yeah.
Um, but the rim protection numbers are also bad, which is like if you're gonna give up threes, you want to take away stuff at the rim, and the Raptors don't do either. So yeah, it's a defensive. I don't know if it's a scheme problem. I think it's just that they don't have a rim protector problem. Like especially in their starting lineup. And I want us to talk about Precious. This seems like a natural. Like it is a luxury to have him, and he made some defensive mistakes today for sure, like on some of those Lopez pick and pops.
Early.
But he was still just their best rim protector. He felt really crucial in the stretches where they went on runs as a defensive player, and it's a luxury that they have him to kind of when OG's on the bench or Siakam or Barnes is on the bench you can just put him in there and not really feel any slip up. In fact, like the defense gets better in a lot of ways. So shout out to Precious because I thought he was the only one really defending tonight.
He
I,
should have
uh,
closed the game.
I agree. I was a little bit surprised at that. OG, like, and I've said this exact thing too. Is like I want accountability across the board. Anyone should be liable to like be pulled from the game. Maybe other than Pascal. And this was probably a night where Precious should have closed for OG. Um, didn't happen. But yeah, I don't know if it's a scheme issue as much as it's just like a personnel issue for me.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about the scheme, and I'm getting a little bit tired of it too, but it's how we attack closeouts. Like it's just tiresome to watch our guys like just jump at pump fakes, and then it's almost like I'm watching World War One on the defensive side. It's just like war of attrition of guys going at pump fakes until there's nobody left to jump at pump fakes anymore. And then so I think that as a scouting scheme has become very evident. Like, and I think the Raptors are told to jump and to force them off the line, right? But so often it's unnecessary and it leads to immediate breakdowns. And that's what's been really frustrating with me.
Yeah, no, that is a part of their scheme. Like that, I know for a fact is something that they tell players that they want to do. If it's a good enough shooter, they want them flying by them and basically jumping at the shot.
Not
And
everybody, right? You got to pick and choose.
yeah, that's the thing. You have to. It is a personnel based thing for sure. But I don't know. To me, tonight was more so about the Bucks just being hot and hitting some really tough shots all game, and like man, their starters shot the heck out of the ball
Yeah,
from three. So some
yeah.
yeah, like kudos to them for shooting really well. The Raptors had their moments in this game where they could have pulled it out, like in the end of the second quarter. They could have
We're up 10.
broke that lead right open. A few things didn't go their way. Pascal turned it over to Drew, who took it the length of the court.
Oh,
Whatever,
that
some
one
stuff didn't
sucked.
go well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm about done with this one. How about you?
Yeah, that's fine. Do you want to name your Can-Am Taxman of the night?
Can Taxman, Scotty Barnes, probably from the people. Well, Gary was really good.
Gary was good,
Gary
and yeah,
and Scotty got it last night. I just want to say quickly on Scotty that I'm just happy that he's playing this way. I saw a tweet today that was like Scotty Barnes in the month of over the last 4 weeks, like these stats, and it's like the haters are really quiet. It's like I would have been considered a hater to that tweet, but it's like, are we quiet because like we're mad, or are we quiet because the guy who we thought was capable of doing this is now doing the things that
yeah,
he's been capable of all along? Like I'm happy for Scotty, but not surprised that he's doing this. It's just like a thing where he's always had this in him, and it's finally clicking, and everything's coming together, and that's really nice. That's probably the biggest thing for the Raptors that has turned in the last little while is Scotty's play. But Gary, 28 points, 4 of 9 from three, 4 steals, and got Brook Lopez tossed from this game on a silly play. And honestly, they should have won from that Brook Lopez toss. Like the fact that Milwaukee still won the game is pretty sad. But Gary Trent Jr., Can-Am Taxman of the night. Go to canamtax.com or call the number at the top of your screen, and they're going to do your taxes for you. They're going to get you money back.
I I had the same reaction when I read that tweet, and because maybe defensive reaction, but I also agree it comes from it's not trade Scotty, he's a bum. It's where is Scotty? I know he's capable of so much more,
Yeah.
and that's what like what's the term? But just like positive criticism is, right? It's not so anyway, but and it is nice to see him. I mean, 13 rebounds is amazing. He's played really well. I love him at center. Like, I think that's kind of the way to go moving forward for now, especially and also running him as a screener in the pick and rolls. Yeah, he had a very good game. And again, like
Yeah.
if anything, I was frustrated that we didn't go to him more, and I feel like he might have been frustrated too.
And Gary, I mean, 2 games in a row where Gary's just completely frozen out of the offense down the
Yeah,
stretch.
fourth quarter. I was saying that in the Knicks game last night. Like, I don't think Gary touched the ball for both quarters.
He wasn't even near the ball. He
It
was
was
standing in a
crazy,
corner.
dude.
He was standing in a corner for the whole fourth
And
quarter.
honestly, again, going back to Freddie, like you're the point, like you said, you're the point guard. Like that is your responsibility to find the guys who are hot and to get them the
Yeah.
ball in the positions to score. Like that, it is. And when
To be
and when
fair, point guard is just a title, and it's
well,
on
whatever you want to call
Scotty,
it,
it's on Fred,
distributor.
it's on Scotty, and it's on Pascal. I think to get him involved.
Yeah, but it's on certain players more than others. And I
Sorry, this
and
is hilarious. I just noticed that on ESPN they call Fred a shooting guard in addition to Gary. That's
and
funny.
that's the
They just
thing.
don't
It's
no
that
point guards.
I think that is part of this problem. And Freddie, when Freddie is at earlier in the season when he was at like 9, 10, 11 assists, like that's a better Freddie for us, I think. And he's running pick
No.
and there was a while there he's running pick and roll. He wasn't hitting a shot, so he's always like looking to pass. Like I think we're just a much better team when we're like that. And you can see Scotty do it. Like Scotty's eyes are always up. He's always just waiting to rifle a pass to somebody somewhere. And Scotty doesn't have the ball enough for that to be a constant thing. It's got to be somebody else like Freddie. Also, shout out to OG for being our enforcer. I love that he is the most unreactive, silent killer. Like he's always in the middle of the phrase, and sometimes he's the guy causing the phrase. And I love that so much. Like that's the role he should play.
Yeah, he needs to play better, but
yes, he does.
Like over like weeks now, he hasn't been
his confidence looks shook.
Yeah, it does. Like he looked pissed at the end of the game, and I'm not sure if Brook Lopez got under his skin, but he just looked like pissed. Not himself, but whatever. I think I gotta go. But Grayson Allen is really fun to hate on. I called him the B word many times during this game. So he's too good though. It's kind of like annoying. It's like a Tyler Hero. Like those guys both like piss me off, but they both score on the Raptors quite a bit.
Okay, quickly answer this question, then you can go. Phoenix asks, Oren, thoughts on trading this year's pick, but add the lottery protections in a Jakob Poeltl trade?
I'd much rather trade next year's pick with lottery protections because this year's pick is just like there is a real scenario where they do that and then they like end up 15th and they basically give like the pick right outside of the lottery kind of thing, and I don't want to be in that position. Yeah, this pick is just too juicy. And I also I'm getting to a point where I think they're going to be in the lottery. So it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
And also I've been thinking about Poeltl. He's a free agent this summer. Why don't you just make enough cap space for Poeltl by trading some of these bench guys and go after him in free agency? Like he's a Toronto guy. He likes Pascal. Yeah, it makes sense that he would have some interest in that. So I would not give up this year's pick.
Yeah. All right. I'm kind of in agreement. Okay. You enjoy your night. I'm also going to go eat dinner. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for attending another tough loss. The Toronto Raptors play on Thursday against Minnesota Timberwolves, another team whose fans are probably panicking and shiting
another
their pants.
Very winnable game, though, that they should probably win.
Yeah. So we'll see y'all Thursday. Thanks for joining us. Have an excellent evening.